Yo, it's the Collective Podcast, episode 109. He's here. He's on time. He's early. What's up, y'all? What's up? Episode 109 of the Collective Podcast. I am here. I am AC from LA. I got my big dog there, Rodney Saucier Sr., aka Saucier Sr. I got our resident guest, SG3, Sam Gardner III.
What's up? What's up?
In the building. Oh wait, I didn't turn my light on. Hold on. I'll be back.
What's up, Rod?
Damn.
Man, laying low, man. That dude rocking a beard like Abe Lincoln.
Is that what you got from it?
Like his half brother Abe
this
Lincoln.
Is calculated.
Hey, man.
Hey,
I think I got solidarity.
I think he's up to something, Rod.
So we were in the pregame. Sam and I were in the pregame, but he was like, you know what he said? He was like, "Oh, I see what you're doing there," and I was like, "Well, I decided." Not only did I want to shape it, but I wanted to feature it. So, here it is. I'm embracing the beard, and I got some positive feedback. What'd you say?
Juneteenth.
Yeah, I'm sure.
No, right.
He's like, hey, my brother freed you guys, so I'm celebrating him.
That's what we're doing. So, Speaking of our freedoms, all right, let's just get right into it. Okay, I'm AC, that's Rod, and then that's Sam. I'm gonna start off with the Supreme Court. I'm gonna dive right in. So a few landmark decisions. Well, hello everybody, hello listeners, hello viewers. Let me go with that. So hold on. I'll start talking in a second. Rod, how was your week? And then we'll go to Sam.
Week was excellent. No complaints. Just worked. Hung with the boys all day yesterday. Lauren's out of town, and got some rest. That's about it. That was good enough for me.
Okay. Lauren is where?
Victorville.
Victorville. Okay, what's in Victorville?
Yep. Timbuktu, cousin's house. She's been there all week.
That's Timbuktu?
That's
kind of close to me,
Timbuktu.
man. That's kind of close to me, dog. I see what you're doing there, though.
Timbuktu.
It's still Timbuktu. He's like, fuck it. All right, Sam. Thank you for that, Rod. Sam, how was your week?
Man, this was a great week, man. A great week personally, a great week on the business side. Got a lot of great things happening, man. But then it was also a monumental week in terms of news and what's happening. I know you touched upon SCOTUS, and we're going to take a deeper dive there, but there's a lot happening, a lot of thoughts surrounding the decisions that were made this week, too, specifically. So, man, but other than that, man, things are going well. Glad to be back to join you, brothers, man. As your resident guest, man, it's a good time, man. We got a lot of good things to talk about. What about you, brother?
Yeah, so I appreciate that, man. My week also went relatively well. Final week of June, things were interesting, and I mean I can't get past SCOTUS. Yeah, it's a lot with the Supreme Court. We also have a lot going on in sports, which we'll get to. Some free agency signings. My favorite player decided to, and I'm not talking about basketball, Sam. My favorite player decided to participate in the home run derby, and then had his own home run derby last night. So, yeah, I mean it's been an interesting week. Shout out to Elaine. Good morning, Elaine. Look, Elaine, It's 8:04, and Rodney's been here for at least 10 minutes. Rod was on the pregame. I mean, kind of. He was signing in for most of it, but he was here early. So we're gonna, just as I jump on him when he's late 99% of the time, this 1% of the time that he's on time, we're gonna celebrate that. What's up, Rod? You are here early. We got you.
And was still sitting in the backyard for 10 minutes.
Okay, so once he did join, I didn't add. Well, I was downstairs, so Sam and I talked because Sam and I were pre-gaming earlier, and I told Sam that I had to go downstairs and get my drink, and then Sam had to go get his AirPods, and then Kayla came up here and got on her chair and started talking to Sam. So I didn't know that Rod came to the studio. So he was basically sitting in the green room, and I had to add him. And so I'm sitting up here talking to Sam, and I was like, "Oh, Rod's down there. My bad." So then I did add you. So that's why I said I feel like I embellished saying you've been here for over 10 minutes, but I feel like it's definitely I'm accentuating the positives of Rod. Of course, you're gonna say I've been here for 20 minutes. Right? Go ahead, say it.
30.
As a matter of fact, Rod, you drove here and woke me up, didn't you?
Pretty much.
All right, so getting into it, depending on which side of the aisle you're on, but depending on your thought processes, you may be celebrating this week as it pertains to these landmark decisions by the Supreme Court of the U.S., or you may be a little disturbed. Hold on, somebody's trying to get in, trying to see. Oh, thank you for that, Google. I appreciate that. Somebody just sent me a message. I appreciate that. So the first one I want to jump into, because the three of us are actually university educated, is affirmative action in education admissions. So in a 6-2 ruling, the Supreme Court issued a ruling stating that race can no longer be a factor in university admissions. So I'm gonna look at my notes, y'all, because I did a little research and this is my summary. So there was a long-standing affirmative action policy aimed at what we say is promoting diversity, and there were two cases in particular involving Harvard University and the University of North Carolina. And the court ruled against both of the universities, stating that their race-conscious admissions policies violated the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So the rulings, in my humble opinion, were trying to accentuate civil rights, but they're saying that the rulings were violating civil rights. The policies were violating civil rights. So here we are. President Joe Biden expressed, as expected, strong disagreement with the ruling, emphasizing the continued presence of discrimination in America. So the Harvard president, Lawrence Bacow, said that while he disagrees with the decision, he'll certainly comply with the court's decision, but the school would continue to incorporate people of many backgrounds, perspectives, and lived experiences. The UNC chancellor, Guskowitz, said that while it's not the outcome that the university hoped for, the university will review the decision and take any necessary steps to comply with the law. So before we get into our discussion, I just want to give you here's the majority decision by the Chief Justice, John Roberts. Excuse me. Many universities have for too long wrongly concluded that the touchstone of an individual's identity is not challenges bested, skills built, or lessons learned, but the color of their skin. He further stated that UNC's and Harvard's policies were well-intentioned, and the decision noted that universities should not be prohibited from considering an applicant's discussion of how race affects his or her life. But further, Harvard's admissions process rests on the pernicious stereotype that a Black student can usually bring something that a white person cannot offer. Justice Clarence Thomas, the second Black justice and a conservative who has long called for an end to affirmative action, agreed, of course. He wrote that such programs were patently unconstitutional. Universities' self-proclaimed righteousness does not afford them license to discriminate on the basis of race, he said. Now, we had some dissenting opinions from Justice Brown Jackson and Justice Sotomayor. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, the first Black woman appointed to the court, said that the decision was truly a tragedy for all. And she further stated, with let them eat cake obliviousness today, the majority pulls the ripcord and announces colorblindness for all by legal fiat. Another dissenting justice, Sonia Sotomayor, said the ruling cements a superficial rule of colorblindness as a constitutional principle in an endemically segregated society. There's more from Roberts. There's more from that fool who used to be the president. But we're not going to get into that. But that is one of the main rulings of the week. We also had a ruling reversing. What's up, Jimmy? We want to. Let's go back to Jim Crow. That's what they're telling us. Absolutely, Jimmy. Good morning, by the way. So we also had a ruling reversing the what is it? What do they call Student Loan Forgiveness Act? So that's been shot down, and Joe Biden, of course, that was his baby. So he said that he's going to continue to do all that he can to protect students facing insurmountable student loan debt. And then there was the ruling that says that people can, in their businesses, can discriminate against LGBTQ plus people. For instance, there was a person who didn't want to make the cakes for the gay wedding, not the gay wedding, the wedding with people who were gay. She stated that it was against her principles, and so they ruled in her favor. The one ruling that some people that don't like those may celebrate is the one that says that that companies cannot discriminate against workers based on their religious beliefs. For instance, if someone can't work for the post office on Sundays because of their religious beliefs, they cannot be fired for that, or that is discrimination. So that's one of the positives that a lot of people see that came out of the week of rulings, and this was the final week of the 2022 session of the Supreme Court. All right. React. Go ahead, Sam.
Rod, okay. All right, so that's a lot. That's a lot to swallow there. So let's start off first and foremost with affirmative action. And this is multi-tiered for me because as a person that was an undergraduate on an HBCU campus where everyone looked like us, my perspective there is, it allows an opportunity for more students, specifically students of color, to look at the impact and the importance of HBCUs. And that's been an argument that's happened for years, politically, as well as culturally, as well as racially, the importance or the impact or the need for HBCUs. So speaking to that point, first and foremost, I think this brings to the forefront why HBCUs are so important, why HBCUs should not be looked at as second tier educational facilities, and why we need HBCUs from a funding aspect, from an awareness aspect, and to know that HBCUs are here to serve students across the board, but particularly the vested interest they have in serving students of color. Second tier, as a graduate student on the campus of a PWI, private white institution, in which even with affirmative action, the numbers of Black students on the campus were limited. So now you reverse it, and you're going to have even less Black students on campus that are not student athletes, because of course you'll always see a proliferation of student athletes that look like us, because of course schools want to benefit from that. One thing that bothers me as it pertains to SCOTUS, and I try not to, really voice my political views, but when there are people that look like us that have benefited from affirmative action, it's funny how a person's memory gets so short when they've benefited from something. And now that they're in there, let's shut it off for everyone else, because, it's easy for Justice Thomas to say, that he is not in favor of affirmative action, but he's benefited from affirmative action, even if he doesn't want to believe that he has. So that for me, when I talked earlier about it being an emotional week and just a week of a lot, I have a great deal of disdain for the reversal of affirmative action, because as we try to shore things up and as we continue to try to level the playing field, we're so far from ever leveling the playing field. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday. You look at competitive advantage. If we're going to run a 100-meter race, I'm already at 80 meters starting off, and you're starting from the jump. Unless I fall, have some debilitating illness or injury that's devastating, you're never going to catch up to me. And so that's what we've tried to do as a people for years, trying to shore things up, trying to make things fair and balanced, but we're never going to be able to be on a level playing field when we don't have laws that are in our favor. And you'll get those that'll say, well, you got to pull yourself up on your own. I'm sorry, we're at a competitive disadvantage, and we continuously are at a competitive disadvantage. So we can't be so far removed from it where we don't look at the obvious. I know we have a few other points we're going to talk about, but I just wanted to start off to get the conversation rolling on SCOTUS and affirmative action.
Yeah, appreciate that. What you got, Rodney O and Joe Cooley?
Well,
hold on.
Jimmy Mack hit it.
Hold on, Rod. So thank you for that, Sam, and reintroducing Rod. For those of you who don't know, he is literally the founder of Howard University, and so I just want to give him his credit there. Okay, Rod, go ahead, talk to him. Gotta get you off.
You can't throw Rod's talking points off. Rod was ready, and you gave him a hiccup real quick.
I was trying to give him. I'm trying to give him some time to gather his thoughts, because I don't think he knew I was throwing the mic to him. Shout out to Brittany and her mom. Shout out to Elaine. Shout out to Cobb. Shout out to Jimmy Mack. Yo, let's go. All right, go ahead, Rod.
Like Sam, I attended the HBCU. I love my experience there. But UCLA and places like that were like second and third on my list. And Jimmy Mack already hit it on the head. We see what happened when they ruled this on the UC system. The numbers for people of color dramatically went down. Really, really went down. There were a lot of people, and some of my younger cousins were rejected from UCLA, from UC Berkeley, with outstanding GPAs. I don't like to hear the argument of reverse discrimination on these types of things when most Black slave labor.
Is he breaking up on your end, Sam?
Some of the businesses.
Okay, hold up, Rod. We're having audio issues with you. Sam's hearing the audio issue also, and I'm getting some messages in the background. So I'm not sure what's happening, but you're breaking up pretty bad. Oh, yeah, he's spinning. Okay, so he'll be back. All right, Sam, you want to talk about any of the other? Oh, okay, go ahead, Rod. We can see you again for the most part. You look like you're commentating Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. on tape delay, but let's see. Let's hear you. Talk. Your lips are not moving, so we know you're not talking. No, we can't hear you.
No, we
So
can't. We
there's
can't hear
it's
you.
not even breaking up. We can't hear you at all right now. Thanks, Jimmy.
Okay.
Oh, now we heard you say okay.
Mhm.
There he goes. Um,
He's falling off.
he must have an Android computer. Okay, Lane, that was for you.
Oh
Messing
gosh,
around
there
with
you
you.
go. There you go.
What else you got, Sam? Until Rod comes back.
Let's see. As it pertains to student loan forgiveness and the reversal of bringing any relief, you know, unfortunately, I'm not in a position where I could benefit from it, but I think it's still important to have empathy that, you know, by not having student loan relief, a lot of people are going to experience hardship. And so often, I think the lack of empathy, there's not a one size fits all. Just because
Right.
I've had to pay back, just because I've had to pay back my own loans, you know, I don't look at myself as the poster child to say, well, since I had to do mine, you got to do yours, because I'm in a different position than some individuals that are unable to pay theirs.
Right.
And by not putting a cap on um, what students or former students or graduates have to pay back, it's making it where they're experiencing a great deal of hardship. So I think as we talk about a lot of these issues, it's important that even if you are not negatively impacted by it, to have some empathy and understanding. Like it's tough for people that are below the poverty line now because they went to school to try to get an education, and in some cases, you're getting out with six figures of debt, and it's kind of like trying to roller skate uphill, where you're trying to get ahead, but ultimately it's difficult to get ahead because every cent that you earn, you're kind of you're underneath that burden, underneath that debt. So it's a lot. So I think with that decision, it's going to disproportionately affect a lot of households that may not have had the resources to actually attend college, and they utilize the option of loans, but now they're so upside down, it makes things extremely difficult. So that was unfortunate, and as I said, this is coming from a perspective from someone that can't benefit from it, but I still have enough empathy and understanding of those that are suffering as a result, because they're unable to do anything else outside of trying to manage repaying their student debt. What about you, Rod? I know you're back now, so hopefully we can hear you.
You know what? I look at it like this: especially with a lot of low income people who finally get a chance to go to college, the first thing you see when you walk on most campuses are tables lined up with people offering you a credit card for whatever they can offer you: a backpack, a t-shirt, a chance to win this, a chance to win that. And you think of it and you say, oh, you know what? My mom barely was able to, pay my tuition for me to register. I don't have sheets for my bed. I don't have this. I don't have that. So you say, I'll get a credit card just to pick up a few little things. You pick up those few little things with that credit card, and you have no job. Um, and it goes on with your student loans. You're just trying to be able to register. You're trying to do all these little things. You come from really low income or no income, and everything is not covered, so you rely on this stuff, and by the time you graduate, they tack on the interest and all this other stuff, and you have to start paying 6 months after you graduate. Most people don't get a six-figure job coming out of the gate. And so you start off making these loan payments, and you realize, now I'm still just getting by. Or
Yeah.
sometimes people can't move away from their parents. They have to live with their parents in order to make sure that they pay these student loans and not go in default. Because my student loan went in default after a while, and you can't do anything using credit. which is what you need to buy a new car, buy a new home, buy just about everything that's got some value to it. So
I
you're already
appreciate that.
behind it.
Oh, go ahead, Ron. I appreciate that, and what's really and it's all valid. And what's really interesting for me is I ruined my credit way before I got to school. I don't even know how because I got to college at 16. I took a year off, got to UCLA at 17. My credit was already done. So talk about being irresponsible. So I didn't fall victim to the credit cards on campus because I already couldn't get them. I did apply for them and already couldn't get them. But all those tables were out, to your point, Rod. And I know that was your biggest point of contention. When Rod was going to school, you made sure to tell when little Rod was going to school, you made sure to tell him not to be applying for any of that stuff. Don't fall into debt. Don't wind up taking on things that you can't afford. But when we talk about the base of this, and it's like the cost of your education, like you're thinking, all right, I'm going to get this education and everything is going to fall into place for me. And I'm going to be able to, like, I'll figure it out. I'll be able to pay this off. So, to Sam's point, I paid my student loans off, but I was in a position too. So, I haven't been able to take advantage of any of this, but I celebrated everyone who can get their student loans or who has been able to get their student loans paid off or forgiven, like great. And with this going away, I feel like there's a domino effect happening very quietly on the bullhorn where it's we're gonna make it even harder for you to get into college. And then once you do get into college, you're not gonna be able to afford it. And I know that the student loan forgiveness is for those that have already, that already have the student loan debt. But I'm just saying, like, it's like a barrage coming from the Supreme Court this week. And going back to Jimmy's point, it's almost like the Supreme Court said. I mean, we're talking about we take it back to Roe v. Wade, and I know that people have differing opinions on this, but just hallmarks of U.S. freedoms, right? Roe v. Wade, Brown versus the Board of Education, and it's like this version, this installment of the Supreme Court is like, nah, all the things that they talked about in our church, in our Southern church in Mississippi, where blacks couldn't come across that white fence, and when all the white sheets were talking about in the back room, let's put all of that in place now. Let's take all of those freedoms away that that we've been talking about behind the scenes. Let's do it in front of everyone. And it's a really interesting time for us. And as the father of a 5-year-old, I'm terrified. Okay. So
I
anything
asked,
else? Go ahead, Rod.
I asked several years ago on Facebook, was the U.S. Capable of another civil war like we had in 1860s? And a lot of people said, no, we're too smart for that now. And I asked the question, why do you think those people were less intelligent? Um, and no one really answered that question. But when you look at how things are unfolding at some point, there's going to be a boiling point at the way things are happening right now with the police brutality, with the murders of innocent people, um, the landmark decisions from the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court, for the most part, used to be pretty balanced as far as their rulings, but now it's unbalanced. And now it's kind of like we're just siding with our political party. Forget about what makes sense, forget about what's good for the people, forget about what should be legal and what shouldn't. We're Republican, we got put in by a Republican president, so we're just gonna keep up Republican tradition. Um, and this is when it's getting nasty.
It's just mind blowing, and then we're gonna go on to sports. But it's mind blowing for me because we've had conservative courts before, but I feel like this is like, yo, You know, the surprise that we saw when we woke up on the day that 45 was installed, and everybody was like reckless out there, and like not us, but we were like, "Yo, y'all just doing this out in the open." It's kind of like that. It's the Supreme Court. They're just dancing on cars, kicking in windows. Um, for those of you who don't know, Rod, founder of Howard, also fought in the Civil War, so he knows firsthand like how you can wind up in one. So let's heed the word of the brother here when he tells us that we could wind up there again, and hope that we don't. So shout out to Rod for that. Yeah, not let's not talk about right and fair. And that's the thing. Like I feel like it's deeper than just Republicans. And I don't mean like it's Republicans and Democrats. I mean it's deeper than them just being Republican. Like I feel like this conservatism is being featured, accentuated, and punched into our faces.
To real quick to dovetail, because I just got a quick thought.
Okay.
So as we talk about agendas, hidden agendas, what we're really seeing in terms of as we talk about if we could have another civil war, what's really being highlighted to me is how apparent the class in terms of our levels of classism, because you're seeing middle class being virtually erased, and you're seeing that financial divide become more and more apparent between the haves, the have-nots. There's no middle ground. Either you have it or you don't have it. And so the people that really aim to lose are the middle class, because even collegiately, kids that are trying to get into college and they need the financial resources, they're being told that their parents make too much, but yet their parents are living check to check. So you're seeing these levels of classism, and you're seeing it get it's getting, which once was here, but you're seeing more and more abundant. And that's where people of color are really, really, really suffering, because most of us aren't on the top tier of this classism list. And that's where we're really being shut out. And so that for me is what's becoming more and more apparent, in terms of also our community is not understanding our power in terms of being the leading consumers. And the only way to get the government's attention is if you have finance and you refrain from breaking bread with them. When you take a stand and say, I'm not going to spend money in your store, that's when you gather their attention, gain their attention. But if you're going to keep going day to day, still, I had a conversation with a buddy of mine a couple of days ago. Black-owned businesses, for instance, if we don't support Black-owned businesses ourselves, they're going to fail, because no other community has to come and support our businesses. But if you go to a business that is a Jewish-owned business, members of the Jewish community come in and support that business. Asian-owned business, other Asians from that community come in and support that business. Us, we go and support anyone if they have things that we feel provide value for us or meet our need. But we have to get to that point where we say economically, we're going to gain the attention of our politicians, and not just during political season when they're showing up to your church trying to have a glorified pep rally, but we're going to take a financial stance so that our voice will be heard. That's the only way that we're going to not continue to suffer as a people.
Yeah.
And I know I kind of get off on a tangent, but I'm passionate about this in terms of our communities continue to come in last place because we don't hold our politicians to the fire. We don't promote accountability. We'll vote on parties just because we've always been, aligned with this party. But then what's the party doing for us besides a song and dance to get our support? But then after they get what they need, they're not in our communities making sure that we have what we need.
So what's okay? So Sam takes me to one of the shows that I watch. I watch something called The Great Food Truck Race, and Tyler is the host. I can't remember his last name, but he's a chef. and Tyler's done some good things in the community. Like he's tried to help change the food that's distributed in schools, secondary schools and primary schools. He's helped try to change. He's helped try to change that. But when Sam talks about supporting communities, so on the Great Food Truck Race, you have chefs and food truck owners who battle on food trucks, and they face the same challenges and all that. But what you're seeing in the current iteration of it is there's a Pakistani food truck, and the Pakistani community always come to wherever that truck is located and support them. You have a couple of black owned food trucks, and there's no like solidarity there. It's not like a slew of black people coming. It's just whoever winds up being there is there. But you have the Pakistanis supporting the Pakistani truck. You have an LGBTQ plus truck or own truck, and their community will come out to support them. And then you have, and this is on multiple seasons, you generally have a food truck that has an owner from Hawaii. And so right now you have one, and they always say coconut wireless is powerful. This is not my term, it's their term, and it's been used on multiple seasons. And it's like the Pacific Islanders will come out in droves to support the food truck. So I just wanted to throw those three out there because they are an example of what Sam is talking about, or Sam just talked about specifically, and you see that happening there. Let's not miss Cobb's telling you to preach. All right, Rod, do you have anything else before we go to sports? I know that Sam's got to leave any minute now, and then we're going to get off in the next 20. But Rod, you got anything before we go to NBA free agency signings?
No, we can keep going.
All right. Day one of free agency yesterday. What'd you say?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh no, I was making sure I heard you right.
Okay. Tape delay. Welcome back to the 80s. So the Supreme Court is taking us back to the 60s. Rod is taking us back to the 80s. Shout out to Rod, not the Supreme Court. All right. Big free agency signings in the NBA yesterday. We had Kyrie Irving staying with Dallas. Yes? Even bigger than that, we have Fred VanVleet to the Houston Rockets. We have Tyrese Halliburton signing a rookie extension with Indiana. And we have Desmond Bane signing a rookie extension with Memphis. Free agency at its finest. That's all I got for free agency. Y'all got anything else?
See, there
Halliburton signed
there, Rod.
deal.
Yes, Halliburton, he came up. And Van Vliet came up.
I didn't check Jordan Poole's wall to see if he said anything about free agency. But what y'all got? Anything? Let me check.
Hey man, I'm just go ahead and put it out there. Golden State did exactly what I said they should do. They went.
Golden State?
I said Golden State did exactly what I said.
What happened in Golden State, right?
They went
what happened in Golden State since you brought it up? What they do?
$100 million for 4 years, not 3, for Draymond.
So, Rod did say that.
So you brought up Draymond. Hey, money 23 green.
Wait, hold on. Timeout. Flag on the play. Flag on the play. Cobbs jump in. This week, we're not doing this, guys. We're not doing this.
Brought it up. Okay. So
we're not. We're gonna scratch the surface on that one.
All right. Shout out to GS. So yeah, we had all the nice free agency signings. I told you, Sam, I didn't have to talk about the dude. I mentioned every signing but his, right? So moving right along. And by the way, Rod, as an aside, he was asking for 4 years. I thought he was asking for 3. So that was what he asked for and got. So we can move on from it. I was wrong about his ask.
No, I
gave us some bad intel. There you go.
Yeah. No, we're not gonna stay on it. We promised Sam. So I was wrong about the ask. Okay. Yeah, I was wrong about the ask. All right. So number 50 decided, hey, I'm going to bring my talents to Seattle in the home run derby. He announced that yesterday. Y'all don't know who Mookie is? That's Mookie Betts, number 50.
Of course, now.
There we go. Former MVP, outfielder, platinum glover. for the Dodgers. And actually, he was on a recent episode of the Great Food Truck Race, so that was kind of cool too. He decided he was going to be in the home run derby, and guess what? No, Cobbs. Yeah, me too. We're not talking about any more NBA. We moved on. If I commit to something, I'm good. Mookie said, I'm going to be in the home run derby, and then Mookie introduced the new pitcher for the Kansas City Royals to Major League Baseball. His fifth pitch was in the left field seat, the left center seats. So that's a leadoff homer, his 9th of the season, the 40th of his career. He's 8th all time. He then gets up again in the 3rd inning, says, hi, remember me? Hits another home run. 2 at-bats, 2 home runs. He went 4 for 4 with the walk, and the Dodgers creamed them. So that was absolutely outstanding. So shout out to Mookie. The Dodgers have the best offense in baseball, and as ratios are concerned, they have an equally bad pitching staff. And so they are in a shootout darn near every night. Mm-hmm. Darn near every night. Hey, thanks for coming through, Cobbs.
Yep.
Darn near every night. So I keep getting these alerts. McDonald's, hey, the Dodgers scored 6. So go get your free nuggets. I never do it, but I get the alerts. They score 6 every night, but a lot of nights they're giving up 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's the tough part about it. But right now they're 11 games over 500, and they were 12 when they started that slide against the Yankees. 12 over. So they're trying to get back to where they were then. And so we'll see how it goes. But yeah.
Well, if history repeats itself, we know that shootouts, teams that are successful with shootouts during the season typically suffer during the postseason because you don't have the liberty in terms of the duration of time. So that's where I'm like, okay, we're going to roll into playoffs yet again. And without shoring up our pitching rotation, that's where the Dodgers, could potentially see themselves collapse.
And I'll say with the caveat, Sam, because the other part of the playoff run is that you do reduce the pitching staff. So if you get your Hogs, you need basically you can get away with 3 starters now the way that they have the games spaced out. So if you have 3 Hogs or 3.5 Hogs and you win shootouts, and by and large you do score less runs, but if you can accentuate, that's my 3rd time saying that in this podcast, you can accentuate the positives of your shortened pitching staff and still score runs, then you actually can be okay. It's just a matter of, can you keep scoring runs? And last season, yes, they had the biggest run differential, but they were winning a lot of close games until it got to the postseason. This year, it's not a lot of close games. Like they're scoring a lot of runs, so they're so it's just a matter of can you do right with that pitching staff. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. This thing never rings, but every time I get on the podcast, it rings just to remind us that Rod and Ben Franklin helped us out with telephone lines. Rod, you're an amazing dude. We appreciate you. We really do. Anything else? No? Okay. Anything else about baseball?
As it pertains to
well, Sam's going to the Big 3 today. Sam, tell us what brought you to go to the Big 3 today.
So, Big 3, they're on the road. So this is week 2. Last week they tipped off the season in Chicago. And so week 2, they're here in Dallas. And so, I'm connected with the Big 3 because it's a CBS product / Paramount Plus product. So did some marketing and promotion for them this week and last week. So decided to go hang out, check out the Big 3 today. A day full of hoops, 4 games, and looking forward to just hanging, man, catching some basketball, man. You can't lose with that. Seeing some retired NBA guys, some overseas guys get it in, some Hall of Fame coaches and Nancy Lieberman, Lisa Leslie, GP Gary Payton, seeing those folks out there, man. So that should be a fun, festive time. Tips off at noon Central Time.
Okay, and who brought this league to us?
Oh, Cube. So Ice Cube. He's really, and I don't know if you guys saw this week, he was talking about, the NBA. The NBA's fear of the big three, saying, the NBA from a marketing perspective has come in and tried to block the big three, from certain marketing deals, because the NBA has threatened to walk away from certain deals because they didn't want companies to do business with the big three. And Ice Cube is saying, in addition to the NBA, this is not stepping on the NBA because it's a summer league. The format is different in terms 3-on-3, and it's guys that are out of the league anyway. So in terms of a competitive advantage or disadvantage, this should not intimidate the NBA. So Cube talked in detail about that, man. It's a fun league. When I was in Philadelphia, I had opportunity to check them out as well, man. And I like it, man. It's basketball, professional level basketball, 3-on-3. Why not? So yeah, about to actually head out. That's a good little segue. About to head out for that, man. So I appreciate you guys letting me join on this episode 109, and passing the baton back to both of you. Sauce Man, the voice of reason, man. Don't let him keep talking. We gonna come up next week. We gonna have something for him next week when he's trying to hurl these old school references on you. We gonna have something for him, and we gonna combo on him next week.
Wait, Rock.
We're gonna combo on him next week.
Okay. So Big Three, shout out to Keith Kimball, who works men's national championships consistently. He is the supervisor of officials for the Big Three. I met him in Indianapolis last year. Okay, Kayla. I met him in Indianapolis last year, and he was actually at the Drew the other day, right before Crystal Hogan was about to work, or while Crystal Hogan was about to work. So shout out to Keith. Okay, Kayla, we're almost done. Give me a second. Okay, Kayla, I'm on my podcast, honey.
Man, right. Have fun. My man Abdul Rauf is not playing anymore. That's who I actually enjoyed. So it's hard for me to watch Reggie Evans. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, he's wild all over the place. That's just fouls and craziness.
Yeah, and while you go, look, man, I'll keep Dred Scott's little brother in check.
Yeah, please do. And I told you, listen, we'll have a post recap because he's up to something. Just so you know, this man's all about strategy, so I know he's up to something.
Oh my goodness, I do not know. You said Dred Scott?
No, that's.
Yeah.
All right, brothers. I'm a peace out. Hey, thank you everyone for watching. And if you're on Twitter, check me out. SG3 on Twitter. Let's connect. Talk about everything under the sun. Peace and blessings to all you guys, and have a good weekend.
Do it again, Sam.
I said, if you're on Twitter, I'm SG3 on Twitter. SGIII. Let's connect. Talk sports, current events, politics, you name it. Let's talk about it. Connect. Elaine, good seeing you. Everyone else, good seeing you. Peace. Have a great weekend and enjoy your families. I'll catch up with you, brothers.
Peace.
All right.
Peace. What's up, Zaire?
Hello. He's just mad with Abdul Rauf because I beat him yesterday.
Oh, okay.
We played 2K last night. He had it on rookie level. Had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar shooting threes from like 30 feet.
Always. They outlawed the dunk. He started shooting threes. You forgot?
Yeah.
All right. So, I wanted to play this real quick because this is my jam. And you mentioned Dred Scott. I mean, you mentioned the other Dred Scott, but shout out to Dred Scott who went to Cal State Northridge. So 83, we talk about 1883. Rock could tell us all about it. 1983, I was but a young buck.
Well, 1793, you were a teenager.
Don't call it a comeback. I told you, Brittany, he will take shots at me at some point. Boom. He put me in the 1700s. All right, Rod. Just a tough week from the Supreme Court. Interesting week in sports. Free agency signings. Like Kyrie finally has a home, right? Like, has he ever re-signed with anyone? Did he ever re-sign with Boston?
No, he didn't re-sign with Boston.
I think this is his
Maybe.
first time re-signing.
Okay. Yeah, he didn't stay with Cleveland the whole deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Dallas had to re-sign him. They traded too many players for him. So it just made sense that they didn't walk away with nothing.
Well, no, it's not. Well, but people want him generally. It's just a matter of him. That I'm saying that he decided to stay. That's my point. He decided to stay.
Yeah.
Hasn't been in the news or any of that. Like it's really interesting. So, he slipped that one in. Fred VanVleet went to the Rockets. In other news, I can't remember the kid's name, but whoever was the king of Houston before yesterday when Fred VanVleet came into town. That guy was saying that he was agreeing with Kevin Durant that it didn't. No, not Kevin Durant. Sorry, PG Paul George, that it would be too cluttered if what's his name came back, the beard, James Harden. So
yeah, I don't
wow.
know what's.
So this is
they
about
still have Green, the rookie. They still have Jalen Green, who was drafted a year or two ago.
Him. That's who it was. Jalen Green. That's who. Yeah, they were.
Yeah,
it was him. Yeah,
and he's trying to put up his numbers. He doesn't want to see anybody come. He wants them bad so he can score 25 or 30 a night. And now they bring in Van Fleet, and they're talking about Harden. Like I don't understand why GMs would mess with, if you're really committed to winning. I don't understand why you would mess with Kyrie Irving or James Harden, given their track record. I never understood why Dallas traded for Kyrie Irving, and it just puts Jason Kidd in a bad situation. They were winning before Kyrie got there, and then they went like 9-18 once he got there.
You heard it here first, Rod. You heard it here first. Rod is blaming the plight of the Dallas Mavericks on Kyrie Irving.
No, I'm just saying that
that's what everybody just heard. Raise your hand.
It's not a good fit, and you can't have two ball dominant players next to each other. I mean, that's what happened with the Lakers and Russell Westbrook playing with LeBron. They both dominate the ball, and they can't really get off playing without the ball in their hands. LeBron doesn't have that kind of game where he can go run off a screen and catch and shoot. As much as people want to holler he's the best thing ever, he has limitations to his game. And Kyrie can catch and shoot, but he doesn't want to. He wants to put the ball on the floor and get to the basket. So it just, Luka is ball dominant. Luka has the ball in his hands pretty much the whole game. And his whole game is predicated on getting a bunch of screens and trying to weave his way to the basket to do what he wants to do. That doesn't work with Kyrie. And it would be the same thing with James Harden going to Houston. Ball dominant, needs the ball in his hands, and playing with players who also want the ball in their hands. Fred VanVleet, he can shoot. He can catch and shoot. He doesn't have to have the ball in his hands, but Jalen Green wants the ball in his hands. So the history and the background of these players and how they perform in the postseason, or their attitudes with teammates and all that kind of stuff. And not saying that Kyrie was a bad teammate when he got to Dallas, because I didn't hear anything about him being a bad teammate there. But just given his history with how he interacts with teammates and the things that he's done over the course of time, I don't understand why you trade so much for a player like that. And now you're forced to re-sign him because if you don't, you're empty-handed and you pretty much starting the team all over again.
Okay, so there's that. All right, Rod, we're gonna go ahead and go to the closeout because we all on short time this week. Well, you and Sam were on short time this week. So, um, Supreme Court, NBA. We did not talk about Money 23 Green very much, and we talked about Major League Baseball. We talked about you in the Civil War, you and Howard. Yeah, I think we covered it. Me in the 1700s. We didn't talk about your all of these shows that I'm watching that are like throwbacks to like either the 60s or the 70s make me wonder like how it was for you when you used to pull up in your conversion van and interact at secondary schools. But I think that would be a discussion for another time. So Brian, go ahead and close out.
Well, it makes me wonder how it felt for you when you were the only black star in Bonanza, but that's another discussion for
Not the only black star on Bonanza. Oh, hey, I think my dad might have just
um
shout out to my dad who also used to watch
there you
Bonanza.
go. Big Tony,
Senior.
what's happening? Um man, I'm gonna close out and say, you know what Sam was talking about with these decisions and black businesses. I need black businesses to do good business. When I do business with someone, my bottom line is if they do good business or not. I don't try to focus, and some people may not like it, but I used to say, hey, let me try to support black business. But after being burned several thousand times, I just said, you know what? I want to focus on good business, whether it be black, red, white, brown, whatever. Um, and I'm gonna remain that way. I want the best value for my money. But as far as black businesses are concerned, and not saying other businesses don't do it, but I'm not concerned with what other businesses do. Please do good business. Please don't overcharge people or nickel and dime them. Have a good reputation, guarantee your work, and make business the way it should be when black business owners actually did good business prior to integration. That's the one thing that people leave out when they start saying support black business. They they don't put that in as far as the value and moral systems about what we used to do. So get back to that, do good business, and let's get it.
So you heard it here first. Rod talked about pre-integration. He brought it on himself. He's telling you about how things were, how he remembers things pre-integration. So that could be another episode where he tells us how blacks did business pre-integration since he brought it up, but just it's not for now. So I think that inherently we do business with everybody who's not black, just because those are the predominant businesses that we do business with. So when I have the opportunity to do business with a black business, and by the way, I have a black business, so support my business. Um, when I have the opportunity to do business with a black business, then I do. But I expect quality wherever I spend my money, and so I would say that does not change. And as Rod says, black business owners don't nickel and dime. I would say patrons that patronize black businesses like don't nickel and dime the businesses. Don't try to get a
True.
discount on everything,
Very true.
and don't shortchange them, and don't steal from them, and don't leave bad reviews. If the service was mediocre, then just don't leave a review. If the service was great, then leave a review. If it wasn't great, then okay. Or if it was terrible, then yeah, leave a review. But like the reviews matter. Just know that reviews matter, because when it comes to other businesses, they're getting reviews, and if they have so many, even the bad ones don't even knock a dent in it, and then our businesses don't have any reviews, and then you come and leave a negative review just because you didn't get your food quickly enough, but it was still good. Like, I'm just saying, take all of that into account.
Right.
What business? Recon Credit Repair and Education. That's my business, Brit.
And
All right.
I've done both sides of it, just to throw that out there.
Mhm.
I've had to chase down clients for money, and shortchanged, and and I've been the customer who has had to go after people for bad business. So I've definitely been on both sides of it.
So when he said that, didn't you guys think he was saying he's been the one who has shortchanged the customer, and he's also been the one that shortchanged the business? He was saying that he's been the victim on both sides. I thought he was the perpetrator on both sides, but that's just me not thinking highly of. No, I'm just kidding. Shout out to Rod. We love him. So I had a game yesterday. I worked the women's Drew, and Rod came up there with Little Rod and Zaire, so that was cool. Kayla was there with me, and my mom was there watching Kayla, so that was super cool. Fun times. I couldn't stay because I needed to get Kayla home and feed her. But yeah, I appreciated that. It was good to be back on the court working women's pro-am because I hadn't done that in years since we were working the league back when I was actually the assigner of the league called the league. Yeah. So anyway, love your people. Let them know that you love them. Like if your mom is there, hug her, give her a kiss, hug your kids, kiss your kids. Just let people know that you love them if you really do. And just remember that at any given time, it could all be taken away. They could be taken away. You could be taken away. Don't leave the positive things unsaid. You can leave the negative things unsaid. That's okay. But also remember my mantra. Conflict can be resolved in one of three ways. In any one of three ways. One, you can talk through it calmly and find common ground. Two, you can talk through it calmly and agree to disagree. Or three, you can talk through it calmly and decide, you know what? This disagreement is so important and so severe that we should just walk away from each other and not either be in a relationship anymore, not be friends anymore, not do business anymore. But it can all be done calmly if both sides want to get to the end of it. So just keep that in mind and try to practice that with your families. And I think that the world will be a more harmonious place in spite of the Supreme Court of the United States trying to kill us day after day. Luckily, their term ended yesterday. I mean, the session ended yesterday, so we don't have to have any more tough decisions for a while. Choose to be kind. It does not cost anything. Elaine Williams out there in Waco. I keep saying Waco. Are you in Waco? I mean, I know you're pretty close to Baylor, but are you actually in Waco? All right, we're gonna close out with Who Do You Believe In, but I also want to play a little more of this Dred Scott.
When the Saturday nights was live in the Westwood, honeys were fly. The flavor was good, but on the burn side was where it took place on a cheap sound system without no bass. Cooler with my man Day Day, the DJ Machete. I wanted a record here, but I knew I wasn't ready. But back.
Okay, so somebody sent a comment and said number 4, you could choose not to have conflict. So I think that the use of the term conflict is what keeps throwing you off. So let me just clarify this for everyone. It could be a difference of opinion. Usually people just use the term conflict, but it's like, oh, I disagree with you. But choosing not to talk about it is generally not healthy. Like, let's talk. Okay, you see it this way, I see it that way. Cool. We're not going to be on the same page. We can move on from it. But if someone says, okay, this is how I feel, and then you say, I don't want to talk about it, well, that's not healthy. So number 4, choosing not to have conflict is basically number 3, choosing not to deal with that person anymore. in my humble opinion. Episode 109 of the Collective Podcast. I am AC from LA. He is Saucier Senior. We had SG3 come through, Sam Gardner III. We only gave you an hour this week, but we hope that it was worth your time. Please like the podcast. Please share the podcast. Please subscribe to the podcast. And please go to the DSPs if you want to hear any of the past episodes. If you want to see any of the past episodes, they're still up on YouTube. They're still up on LinkedIn. They're still up on Facebook. We appreciate you. Episode 109 of the Collective Podcast. Elaine is 5 minutes from Baylor. We love y'all. Peace. Is it the miniature casket, little babies?